in right now. So hold on one second. Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Hey JJ, hear you well.
All right, very, very good. Um, all right, so I was trying to fix my sound meanwhile. Usually we test that ahead of time, but people weren't hearing me either. So you're right on time.
Hopefully
All
you
good.
can hear me okay.
I can hear you very, very well. Thank you.
Perfect.
So I'll get started by talking a little bit about the program for the day. I know it's a holiday. I kind of missed that. You and I kind of missed that one, but people are going to get a lot of value out of this. So I'm hoping that people will be able to review this because you and I will be broadcasting this for others to really listen to this again in the future. So.
And
Um,
there are no holidays in startup.
No, there are no holidays. Exactly. That's what I say. No holidays in startup. I'm working all the time. You're working all the time. And we're not startups. We cater to the startups, right? Uh, so just some intro. I'll let you introduce yourself in a second, but let me just make an intro about the program. We've been doing this for about just before COVID, I guess. We started it. It wasn't meant to be that way, but it ended up being a good program from that standpoint. So it's about an hour. Today we have a discussion with Brian. Brian, as everybody may know, he is the head honcho at Export Dojo, and he's got a lot of insights that he's going to tell us about today. Um, if you have any questions, please go ahead and open your put them in the chat at any time, and Brian and I will be able to answer them for you. If we can't get to your questions for any reason, please you can always email them to pvinfo@Pismo Ventures. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. You're on it right now. Also, follow us on social media. This program has been around for a few months. Like I said, we're really bringing the movers and shakers of the community to this live stream so we can answer and educate entrepreneurs and um, about what it takes to start and grow a business and potentially get to a point where you're selling that business. Um, before I jump off and ask Brian to introduce himself, just want to talk a little bit about what we do at Pismo Ventures. We are a venture firm, and also we are a venture studio with a software development arm. So what we do is we help our portfolio companies uh, not only with by investing cash in them, but also we invest resources, human capital, in addition to money, cash into our portfolio companies. The way we work is we work with our companies for a period of time, kind of like an accelerator, to help them really get to the next level. What also we have a software development arm to help our portfolio companies with their software development needs, custom software mainly, and that is it only if they need to. So we are agnostic from that standpoint, although we do like technology companies. We help facilitate funding. We open doors. We are building a fund this year as well, and we become truly partners to our portfolio companies and investors. Um, Before I again jump off to talk to Brian, I will tell you that we have a business plan competition running right now. We have 3 weeks left before the application uh, are closed. So exactly 3 weeks from today, actually 3 weeks minus one day. So if you are in the run, if you're looking to raise money, if you're looking to connect with investors, if you're looking to learn more, if you're looking to get feedback on your startup, this is the place. Brian has been a great supporter. Expert Dojo has been a great supporter of the competition. And so we have more than 120 investors that have signed up to be part of this, in addition to 42 different angel groups and VCs that are participating as part of this competition as well. A lot of webinars involved, including one webinar by Brian, quite involved Brian. So, and then really to basically educate you on everything startup. So I'll put the website and or the registration link in a few minutes in the chat. Meanwhile, I'm going to get started and let Brian introduce himself. Good morning, Brian. Thank you for being here today.
Excellent. Yeah, great to be on the show, JJ, and great to be a part of what you're building over there with the startup competition, the fund, and everything else that you're doing. Truly awesome stuff. A quick introduction to Expert Dojo. I would say today we are the largest by deal number venture company in Southern California. There's nobody who does more deals than we do. Interestingly enough, 80% of the deals that we end up doing are being done outside Southern California for companies that we end up bringing in. So, for example, in our latest cohort, we invested in companies from India, from Finland, from Spain, from Japan, from Israel, from Egypt, and I believe there's probably 2 or 3 other countries that I've forgotten there as well. But yeah, so we look all around the world. We try and find the greatest companies in the world, and then we bring them to the greatest country for entrepreneurship in the world, and we let them expand. And then we'll find some companies over here that are either immigrant focused, or even if it's American focused, and we just love the company, and then we'll bring them in and put them into cohorts. And normally we do 4 cohorts a year, where we do 100K investments, along with help and support.
All right. This is important because I think people don't know really how Expert Dojo works. So maybe can you explain to the audience how does Expert Dojo work?
So the idea behind Expert Dojo is that we provide people with all of the facilities and the training that they need to actually be successful. So that involves an 8-week course that we bring them through. We'll train them on growth hacking. We'll train them on product fit. We'll train them on influence level. We'll introduce them to investors. And we'll really teach them how to grow their business from the ground up.
All right, and it's an 8-week program, and how many usually in a cohort?
So we'll normally bring, the funny thing is we're growing. So if I talk about Expert Dojo today, really Expert Dojo as a company has evolved over the years. The same as, I mean, at the very beginning of the program, you mentioned, hey, we're not necessarily startups. See, the funny thing with funds are, we actually act in a very similar way to startups, right? So if we look at kind of how we work and what we do, we raise money from other people. And in my case, I have 1 LP. In other cases, they have lots of LPs. And then we try and build our company, and then we evolve and we build our product fit. So we started off at the very beginning, really in very similar ways to what you discussed there, as a venture studio, as a laboratory for entrepreneurs. And then we started investing, and I started investing, and then my partner came in and he started investing. And then as we evolved slowly and slowly and slowly, we found ourselves to be this international accelerator, which this year will invest in 50 companies. Next year, we plan to invest in 100 companies. The following year, we plan to invest in 200 companies. So really is just a huge endeavor that started off as a hobby and has turned into something which I don't even know how to measure anymore.
That's really good. I mean, that's first of all, great success. You're saying you're doubling every year for the next couple of years at least. That's amazing.
Yeah, we are, because we see a huge need. We love the startup space. I personally love the early stage startup space. I believe that the biggest area of opportunity in the market is for folks to be able to raise money just by being by investors, being able to invest money in the best place in the space. And what's happened in the industry is, and I think you've seen this as well, JJ, is that investors have been moving slowly away from the early stage space towards the later stage space. And that's provided a phenomenal opening for us. And it's also provided this huge gap for startups where they've been thinking, well, how are we supposed to start a great company if we don't have the resources to be able to actually build that great company? And that's where we've stepped in and we've said, you know what, we're just going to go to the max and invest in as many companies as we can and support them as much as we possibly can and really be there with them for right in that early stage all the way up to Series B.
That's that's really great. I mean, we're going to talk about this right now. Let me answer a question from Aya. She says, "What kind of companies do you invest in?"
So high scaling companies. We made an offer on a beverage company in this current cohort. They were just about to go on Shark Tank, but we loved them. We loved their brand. We thought their brand was phenomenal, and they could scale really, really high. Like you know what's wonderful in today's world is that look at some of the most successful companies that have come through either IPOs or acquisitions or just growth in the last few years. You could take Impossible Meat. Like who would have invested in Impossible Meats, believing it was going to be this phenomenal unicorn that was going to come from nowhere by just taking something that had existed for so long in what would be perceivably an unscalable business. Take Peloton that we just see down the road. Terrible, huge, big clunks of metal coming from China or Taiwan or God knows where else has suddenly turned into a massive unicorn. So scale is everything. Look, I want to explain how the roads diverge for an entrepreneur because it's very important. Number one, many entrepreneurs do not want to be a unicorn, right? This is not necessarily the best road. It's just the road you hear most about. So as you start off in your journey and you think, okay, there is a huge problem that is facing X quantity of people. And I believe I can fix that problem because I am going to create a widget or a meat or a something or a technology that is going to be a solution. And then you say to yourself the next thing, which is tremendously important. Do I want to build my company like lynda.com, which is that I control most of the company myself, which is that I build it piece by piece. I need to make money as I'm growing the company because I'm not going down the venture capital, the venture backable road. I'm going down the I need to make money road. I need to build a company which has got EBITDA, which has got profitability. But by the way, I'm going to own 70, 80, 100% of my company. By the way, I don't have some jackass venture capitalist like me giving you advice on what to do in the knowledge that my views are biased because I need you to become this massively highly scalable company. You are in absolute control of your company and you can do all kinds of wonderful things. You can pass it on to your kids. You can grow it. You can keep it. You can put managers in there. The only pressure in your life is the cash flow that you generate and the profitability that you take away to go away in your summer holidays and to keep it going, right? That is road number one. In many ways,
there's nothing wrong with that. Just we tell people there's nothing wrong with it.
So I was just going to say, in many ways, I believe it's the better road. I actually,
yes.
I'm not sure that the Ponzi scheme world that we live in is the better road. Because road number two, let's look at Uber, for example. Terrible company, basic technology, basic. What's the difference? So we don't call people anymore. What, we tap on a phone and then we call this technology? This isn't technology. The only difference is rather than having licensed drivers, we have unlicensed drivers. Rather than calling people, we tap on a phone. Rather than having a yellow car, we have a car which is all kinds of colors. Rather than having people who actually have it as their profession, we have it as people who actually are struggling to get anything else. And it's not meant with any disrespect. I want to really color what a venture capital backed company is. And I want to emphasize it with the most important point. Uber have existed for over 10 years and have never made a profit. Not only have they never made a profit, they lost billions of dollars the last time that they actually showed their accounts, which is last year. I don't even want to go into the amount of billions because it's truly embarrassing, right? And not only that, they don't have any view to making profitability. The only chance they're going to have of making profit is if they finally make autonomous cars and all of us end up going back onto an episode of the Flintstones where all of us are in these nice Stone Age flying cars. Okay, but what's the reality of Uber? The reality of Uber is it is a perfect Ponzi scheme type company. It will have consistently more and more and more money put into it by venture capitalists so it can do one thing. It can unfairly and uncompetitively acquire users based on a broken model. The only reason we use Uber or Lyft today is because it cost me $23 to get to LAX airport from Santa Monica, and a cab cost me $52. And I swear to God, if they reversed their models tomorrow and we didn't have Uber as the main poster child of venturism rather than socialism, it's just one step worse, then if they reverse tomorrow, everybody would leave Uber in a second. So I'm just saying you have to understand the beast you're in. I'm not saying this is a bad world. I'm just saying it's a world you need to understand. And that means that if you go down this venture backable road, you better be damn good at raising money, because it's the only thing that is going to help you survive. And if you are not good at raising money, then you either find somebody who's really good at raising money, or you go down the other road, which is honestly a better road anyway. You get to hang on to
out
your
of the
company.
way. Yeah. Move somewhere else. And yes, because a lot of people, I have to agree with you. A lot of companies may not be investable, and sometimes, other than being not investable, it's better to bootstrap it until you get to a point where you are investable. And there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe, like you said, it is a better road because you end up being in full control. You know what you're doing, and then you write your own destiny.
You
It's
too.
yeah.
And if you take JJ, if you take like the founder of Lyft, the founder of Lyft has got less than 1% left in his own company. The founder, less
I did
than
not know
1% left.
that.
So okay, they're like what are they, 20 billion, 30 billion these days, which you would say, oh my God, that's one of the most successful companies in America. Yeah, but the founder of that $20 billion, the founder has probably got like 200 million of his own shares in there, and then take away some tax, and that's 100 million. And most people on this call would say, well, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah, but that's the most successful. You just hit the absolute pinnacle on the roof. So you got to be very careful. You have to understand the rules of this game. You have to understand who the players are. You have to understand the success matrix. And if you dare to go down the venture backable road, you got to go down this road with your eyes wide open.
Yep. It is. You know what? I don't think anybody on this show has really talked like that, but I think it's important for everyone to hear that because it is reality. Um, so, talking about that, what does today's investment landscape look like for entrepreneurs?
Excellent, actually. We're in the middle of COVID. This is best time ever. As long as you're not a retail store, and I feel terribly bad, and I say this very flippantly, but obviously, if you're a retail owner, if you're a bar owner, if you're a nightclub owner or a gym owner, I feel terribly bad for you because it's not your fault
Yep.
that you're in the place that you're in right now. However, if
Yep.
you're a brand new company, and especially if you're technology enabled, we will say, or you're a fast, scalable company that's good for the COVID environment, then God bless you. This is the best time you've ever been. And it's a great time for investors as well, because first of all, most unicorns are made, or the vast majority are made in recessions. Recessions is when we find the very best companies out there, because what happens is it's like a tornado. Yeah, it's like a tornado, right? The water is not muddy anymore. What happens is when a tornado comes rushing through, then you got clear water. We can see deep. We can see what your user acquisition cost really looks like. We can see what the value proposition looks like. We can see what consumers buy. This is the very worst time. So if this is the very worst time, my goodness, imagine what the best time is going to be.
The best time is going to be,
And also, let me layer on top of that, staff are cheaper than they've ever been before. You can now hire people in San Francisco for like $75,000, $80,000 a year. You could not have hired someone on the side of the street for less than 200 grand a year only 6 months ago. You can also get advertising at a lower cost than you've ever got it before. By the way, all of the I was going to say the jerk off. All of the marketing agency guys who are all too busy to deal with you before because they were all so tremendously important and they had so many clients out there. Well, guess what? They don't have any clients anymore. So now they got to lick your shoes. This is the best time. This is my fourth recession. And recessions are a time when I go, okay, this is when there's money to be made. And I promise you, anybody who understands wealth generation is thinking the same way. So if you are thinking this is not a good time to do a startup because it's a tough time in a recession, wrong. If you're thinking I should go slowly and I should be careful, wrong. And that does not mean don't conserve your cash. It doesn't mean don't be careful in what you do. But I mean, you need to be more aggressive today on user growth acquisition than you have ever even imagine being before. You got to do more in 3 or 4 years than you would have done in 8 years before. Right now, your competitors are terrified. They have disloyal staff. They're firing their people. They're reducing their advertising. They've cut down on their lunch expenses. This is the time to beat them when they're hungry.
Man, good perspective. I love it. So, okay, so based on what you really just said, is it really harder for startups today than 6 months ago, or
No.
is it easier?
It's easier. It's easier if you've got a really good company with a clear value proposition and a direct line of sight to the end point, right? It's much harder if you've got a brand new company that you're coming out with where you're not quite sure where it's going to go to. You're not quite sure. So let me rephrase. JJ, I don't know if you're still there, but if you're not, let me roll with this for a little while.
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So we probably get 1,000 applications for our accelerator over a 2 to 3 year period. Now, during those 1,000 applications, 800 to 900 get discarded pretty much immediately because those startups didn't have clear line of sight at the beginning. They either can't explain their product properly, they can't explain the problem that they're solving properly. They don't give us a clear line of sight. They just say, hey, we're $1 billion company because if we just take 2% of the market. Now, the thing is this, like those kind of silly approaches to trying to get investment, they may have worked in really good times because there was lots of money and people were there. They don't work in these times right here. And that's a good thing, by the way, because it means all of the fools who should never have got investment before are now getting investment.
Exactly.
Yeah, they should never have got it. Like that shouldn't be the case. You should get investment because you would be comfortable with your mom putting money into your company because you truly believe you're going to make money. So this is a wonderful time to raise investment, but you got to be louder. You got to be more aggressive. You got to be more forthright with your product. And you also have to have your ears really open for people to be telling you the areas where you're not quite getting that message across.
Yep. By the way, I was going to tell you earlier that I think we did invest in the same, consumer product drink company that you did. So, all right. So let's take it a little bit further. Has anything changed? Okay, so it's good for startups, unless as long as they have that really good value proposition.
Yeah.
Like you said. If your mom and grandma would believe in it, then anybody should. But has things changed from the investor's perspective?
So what happens in times like this is you've got amateurs and you've got professionals, right? And the amateurs, and this is not one is better than the other because most of the amateurs are angels. And most of those angels I only classify as amateurs because they were very successful at something else, right? Not at angel investing. They were very successful at whatever they managed to make all of their money from. While institutional investors only do one thing. Like the only thing we do every single day, my only job is to source incredible companies and just get the hell out of their way so they can build what they were destined to build. While an angel will come in, will look at a company and will say, I think these guys are really good. I really like the idea. I like the team. I think we should invest in these companies. And the challenge for folks like that, those types of angels, is that when they hit a market like this, there are other opportunities, right? So early stage startup has a challenge because we got to wait 10 years for our returns. 7, That's 10, right. 12, maybe 15 years for our returns for some of those companies to come through, right? So because of that, we're prepared to wait because this is our stock and trade. But angels who could invest in other alternative asset classes, those folks are thinking, well, I might get a mansion that comes up in Beverly Hills, which was worth $10 million before, and I can pick it up at $2.5 million. And I can flip that sucker in 4 or 5 years, and I can make $5-6 million. So do I want to have my money tied up in early stage startup for the next 10, 12 years? Or do I want to be able to go into the alternative asset classes? And we see the same thing with people looking at, Bitcoin and other types of technologies like that. And also looking at the stock market, like with the stock market going down on Friday. And now everybody's thinking, well, is it going to crater? And then should I have cash in the bank that I can buy a lot more? So it just becomes a more complicated proposition. So the only difference between what really happened before with startups and what happens now is that many of the amateur angels, the angels that are in there is just a small percentage of their allocation, those guys will disappear for a little while. because they want to make sure that they're not going to have their money tied up for long periods of time. The actual institutional investors, the folks like us, we come in hard. Like we come in harder than ever before because we know this is when we make all of our money. And there's lots of people like us. I saw a statistic. One of the fund of funds did a great podcast a couple of weeks back, and they were talking about the amount of micro VCs that were around about 7-8 years ago, and there were 100 micro VCs, and now it's in the thousands. I don't know if it's tens of thousands globally, but it's definitely well into the thousands. And they're just the micro VCs. They're the folks who used to be family offices, they used to be angels, and they decided that they would formalize it with 5, 10, 20, 50, $100 million. So there's more VCs than there's ever been before. And many of those VCs will fund in the very early stages. I would say the only area of challenge for early stage startups is it's going to become harder to raise money in the concept stage because the angels were good for that, right?
Oh yeah, the angels are good for that. Again, but I have to say what you said earlier, I agree with that. Even the angels are moving up a little bit, meaning that just concept, no proof of concept, or just an idea, angels are not investing there. And so it's becoming really, really hard. But what you're doing is really it's really kind of in between, because you're really helping the ones that are not fully there yet, but they're not at an idea stage. They're right in between, and you're giving them $100,000 to prove what they could do. And so it is, you're at the earlier stage than I thought when I first started talking to you. You're a little bit earlier, isn't that true?
Yeah, I would say we're one of the earliest in the space, actually. A lot of, we got a deal going through. So when I talk about institutional investors, I also include the angel groups in there as well. So whether it's Tech Coast Angels or Pasadena Angels or Band of Eight, like wonderful groups. And I know you're a member of the TCA folks. And we all kind of look at it the same way, right? Our job is to try and be futurists. So we try and say, okay, what trends do we believe are going to be coming in the next year, and leaving aside the stuff that's hyped up. So throw away our flying cars, throw away our drones, picking up our FedEx packages. Like, what do we believe is going to be really, really popular?
I haven't seen those yet. I haven't seen them, so I'm sure you have.
What do we think is going to be really popular that is going to be able to galvanize the next round of investors? Because I said at the very beginning of this, much of what we do is a glorified Ponzi scheme, right? And that means that the important part is that the next round of funding can be achieved. That's all that's important. I think if you said to 99% of institutional investors, what is the number one thing that you want to get from your startup? They would say, we want them to be able to raise the next round. Because they know that would be great, right? That's all we need. Actually, we don't care about users. We don't care about profitability. We don't care about team. We don't care about anything. If you said to me, Brian, I absolutely guarantee you that we could raise the next round from an institutional investor, I'd be like, God bless you. Here's $100,000. And then the next investor is thinking exactly the same thing. They're only thinking, okay, you got your seeds. I wonder, what are the chances of you being able to raise an A round, and then so on with the A round, and so on with the B round. And then when you get to B, it starts moving towards, will this person or people be acquired? Will these people go IPO? Or will these people build it up to like some Zoom type presence where the company's absolutely monster going forward? Like, who knows? But that's all we do. So we're futurists. Now, the more information that we have, that to give us data points that we can work from in the future, the easier. So for example, I'll give a reference point of 2 or 3 companies which may be helpful to people. We took a company in India. I'm so sure they're going to be a unicorn. Like, I'm so 100% sure. They're called Unlu, UNLU. And what they did is they provided a communication mechanism between influencers, personalities, and ordinary people, right? So very much like what was done over here in the US, which are already $1 billion company, but they did it in India with 3 times the population, where they love, you think we love our influencers and we love our personalities. We are in the nothing division compared to India. And by the way, India just happens to be 1 in every 7 people on the planet. Okay, so it's a pretty decent chunk of people. We get 4 people in the team. One is a PR specialist. One is one of the top guys from one of the top agencies for personalities in India. One of the guys is a top technologist who's exited out of not a unicorn but close to. And then the last guy is a logistics guy who was one of the top guys in Amazon. So I see data point, top team. Data point, industry which is going to catch on fire. And we invested in them just before COVID, I think. It was around the COVID time. But as COVID came on, bigger data point. Forget about fans being able to meet with their personalities. It's gone. And then we look and we say, okay, do we have that final? So I'm happy with the team. I'm happy with the idea. I'm happy with the fact that they can build traction. Do we have a data point that shows us the cost of customer acquisition? Because that's all I really care about, right? As long as all things being equal and knowing that a company's got to get to like $10 million in revenue to be a unicorn, or maybe $1 million a month in revenue to be a unicorn, I just need to thread the needle to $1 million a month. So if I know they're going to get to $1 million a month in revenue, I'm thinking, okay, cool. What's the cost of customer acquisition? Because if I know that, I can then thread the way to working out how much institutional investment we need to get them to $10 million a month in revenue. And then they give it to me in revenue. I find out what it is. These guys get investment from Mumbai Angels and a bunch of other people in like 5 minutes. Their valuation is going to quadruple between now and December. And by December, they'll be hitting about $200,000 a month in revenue. So you get companies like that where you just got lots of data points. And I just pray to God that nobody notices that we're getting in for a good price. That's it. There's nothing else to do. I'm just hoping that me being Brian and nice and saying, hey, I'm your friend, you're my friend. I'm hoping that adds enough value to get them into the round. And then we get other folks that are a little bit earlier, but we can't quite tell. So we took in a company from Israel that haven't got their first customer yet. But I have a brilliant technologist. He was in the 8200, which is like an elite cybersecurity technology force. He was in a top university over there. He came out of an exited company. We know he's top pedigree. He's in the future of work, which is about using sensors and technology to be able to measure the productivity in workspace while at the same time sending people home. It's just we know intuitively that I don't have all of the data points, but I have enough to be able to tell me that it's
that's the futurist part in you, right? So
yeah. So we'll average those out. So when we take our 12 companies in, I'll take some folks which are my Unlus, which I can already see they're making it there. I need to be unlucky for them not to make it. I'll have other folks that are my Israeli companies where I have my geniuses, but I know it's a decent moonshot, but in an area that folks are going after, and then everything in the middle.
Yep, that's really good. So talking about really money, right? Talking about and this is a double-edged question. Mm-hmm. Is there less money in the market or is there more money in the market? I know you talked about thousands of VCs coming into the market. There's a lot of money. But at the same time, some people are kind of holding back, aren't they?
So there's more money in the later market.
Okay.
There's more money. There's way more money. Like if SoftBank are it's incredible. Those guys just amaze me. I 1 minute I wake up in the morning and I think they're the most brilliant people on the planet. Then 5 minutes later, after the WeWork debacle, I think they're like the greatest fools that have ever been put here, and they're just here to spend money. And then I watch them afterwards, and where I'm getting to right now is they're really becoming the BlackRock of the venture capital space. They're just going to be a beast titan that are able to do absolutely anything and will have tens of billions of dollars at their disposal to buy whatever industry they want. So that's increasing. Or if you look at Lightspeed still have a new multi-billion-dollar fund. General Catalyst, they just raised, I think 6 months ago, a $2.5 billion early stage fund. Sequoia are having no difficulty raising money. So if we look at the top end of the funnel, no problem. Nobody's got any problems raising money. That money is being deployed and it's been pushed out far and near. If we look at the early stage of the funnel, you got to be brave to be in our space, or stupid, right? You got to be brave or stupid. But I also believe this is the greatest. Like honestly, the later stage is such a boring, terrible space. I love the early stage. The early stage is a great space. It's full of risk and it's full of reward, and entrepreneurs still have hope and vision and curiosity, and they're still going through want to change everything. They haven't been made skeptical and pessimistic yet. So I don't know if that answered the question. I do think that the early stage space is going to be complicated, and you really need to throw a couple of extra darts to be able to make sure you find the right investor. And you need to be able to have a little bit more traction to be able to show those extra data points to be able to convince people in. And just in summary, you go back to my very first point. If you were a normal company building a normal business, you got to be a brilliant entrepreneur. Today, if you're in the venture capital space, you got to be a brilliant fundraiser. That's it.
That's right. That's very true. Just to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Just put it in the chat box and we will answer it. So let's talk a little bit about, with the early stage. So there are really, I look at specific things. So I want to ask you this question, and just to learn from you if you're looking at that. So for example, if the valuation is really high, or valuation, or even if we're talking the cap, right? If they're doing a convertible note.
Yeah.
So if the valuation is really high and a company is not going to be able to reach 10, 20, 30 million in the next 3 to 5 years, and if they give you a $10 million pre-money valuation, and then they are probably not going to reach that, or maybe they end up becoming a $20 million company in 5 years, you just doubled your money and it's not worth it. So are you looking at companies, or are you investing in companies at some reasonable low valuation, especially because you and I look at early stage?
Yeah. So valuation is a really, really important topic for everybody included here. And I think if I just give a general comment, and then I'll be really specific about us. So the general comment is that valuations have dropped, and they have dropped because it was getting a little bit silly. Not so much down here in Los Angeles, but in the Valley, it's just silly. And I know a lot of investors that would go up to the Valley and they would see pre-revenue companies with no product and genuinely just not that great. Which were coming out of the Y Combinators at valuations of $10 to $15 million. And the challenge, to your point, JJ, is that all of us...
money.
Yeah, that was pre-money, exactly. And the challenge, to your point, is that it's hard to make money from that, because we don't know, especially when we're investing very, very early stage, we don't know what percentage you're going to break through. And our first responsibility is to make sure that the LPs in our fund get their money back. Like, if we lose all of the money on making lots of bets, and then we get like one company that we get 2 times back, that doesn't even pay for the expenses of actually running the accelerator. So that's on a general level. It's dropped. I mean, some people would say it's dropped by 30%, 40%, 20%. I think much of it is tied into the traction that you have as a company. If you don't have traction as a company, the days of just being able to get a very high valuation for showing nothing are pretty much gone, unless you founded an exited company before, right? So that's just boom. Now, us, it's real simple. We're no different to Y Combinator, 500 Startups, Techstars, or any of the other accelerators, because our whole program is about supporting startups for up to a 3-4 year period. I mean, look, we'll stick with them for longer, but they need us up to Series B. And that's because, and actually, I'm going to go, just after I say these terms, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into just a really good inspiration of mine here locally, and where I learned a lot about what startups need. So our model, very simple, like 3.5% for 50K, 7% for 100K. It's very similar to the big boys and girls. And we do that because we provide like the entire full support. And all later stage VCs understand that. They understand that you come into an accelerator, even if you're at a higher valuation. And by the way, most of our companies most of the companies that came in are already valued at $5, $6, $8, $10 million. And they'll still happily give us the valuation. Not always at 100,000, sometimes it's 50. And because their viewpoint is, heck, I'm going to go in with Expert Dojo. They're going to teach us about growth hacking. They're going to help us growth hack. They're going to get directly involved in our brand. They're going to help us rebuild a whole new brand. We did up to 40% of the companies in our previous cohort. We rebuilt their entire product fit and brand. They're going to help us build our influence level. They're going to then attract investors and bring them in. I mean, we'll bring up to 150, 200 investors just through the program that we're going through. And then they'll be a part of us going forward. So yeah, we step down so we can take 3 steps up, right? And that works for some founders, and then for other founders, it doesn't work, right? It's all about getting the right fit from both sides. So let me move just quickly to a really huge inspiration of mine here in Santa Monica, because I've watched this for the last 6 or 7 years through a number of different parties, right? I watched Santa Monica when folks like Howard Marks came out and he launched an accelerator and they did about 50 companies in Start Engine, the first Start Engine, not the equity crowdfunding one, and pretty much got no results. And he got no results because there was no follow-on capital in the market, and he didn't have the influence at the time to be able to bring follow-on capital from Northern California. I was also here at the time when you had startups try to do it on their own. And how many successes did we have? Kind of none, right? And I'm going to speak about Honey and Dollar Shave Club and those folks in a couple of seconds, but kind of none. So you could say startups would say, yeah, we held on to our equity and we held on to our valuation, but how many folks in the greater LA area actually broke through and built $100 million or $1 billion companies? And by the way, in the venture backable space, that's the only metric. There is no lower bar. There is no, oh, we got a $25 million sale. That's a failure for everybody involved, right? So how many people got it through? Nobody. And then I started noticing folks like Mucker Labs, who are a great accelerator and early stage fund here in Santa Monica, and they picked up Honey. Now, am I going to say that Mucker Labs were singularly responsible for getting Honey to a $4 billion cash only exit to PayPal? No, but they were part of an immensely important system. BAM Ventures were also part of that system as well. Brian Lee is a beast in his own right. So it's about putting those jigsaw puzzles together and saying, yeah, you may give up a little bit at the beginning, and that may have meant that Mucker walked away with a couple of $100 million. But the guys in Honey got $4 billion, and they got $4 billion without having to go past their A round. And then my other big inspiration is Mike over at Science, that have an entirely converse model that some people don't like. But I think it's very honest and very fair. They say, look, we're going to take the majority of your company and we're going to pay for all this stuff. And we're going to put subsequent investment in afterwards if you're scaling at the level that we want you to. So we're going to help build you. We're going to help fund you. We're going to growth hack you, and then we're going to put more money in afterwards. So yeah, Dollar Shave Club walked away with $1 billion exit, and I'm sure that the founder did not walk away with the bulk of that, but the founder walked away with plenty of cash to never have to work again. So I really...
And then he can start all over with another idea.
With like tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in his back pocket.
Oh, yeah.
So
Exactly.
Look, for me, this whole game is about making sure you surround yourself with the beasts of the industry and that those people can raise you on their shoulders. That's it. The only question is, can I afford this beast? And is this beast going to give me additional value? And then you allocate who you believe are going to be the right beasts to have alongside you in your ride. But you need them. To do this on your own is just too difficult. And actually, let me give a great example, if I can, JJ, about Tech Coast Angels, because we had one of our companies come through two cohorts ago, Debbie, and Debbie had a platform that helps, and actually more than a platform, a online training for sales. I don't know if you ever saw that pitched over at TCA, right?
You know that one,
And she's a beast. Like, she worked her ass off. She put so much money, so much time. She sold into universities. She convinced universities prior to COVID that they should have online training for sales. If any of you have sold into universities, you are the only people who understand how unbelievably impossible that is. And I saw someone who's I would say a mid-40s lady, who's a solo founder, that would normally go against the grain of what I would invest in. I would normally say, I like to see a technologist on a platform which is highly technological. I'd like to see two co-founders rather than one. I love the fact that it's women, by the way. That to me is a big plus, more than if it was a man. But I would have liked to have seen if she was more technical, and I would have liked to have seen if there was another co-founder in there that could have supported, because I believed that it was just a lot for one person to take on. She already had 10 universities on board before COVID even came. And I said to myself, any woman who can do that, any human being who can do that, I want to invest in. So is it one for me that I can look at and say, can I be sure that this is going to happen in the next, that we get funding in the next round? No. But do I believe that she deserves funding? And do I believe that she will fight harder than any other entrepreneur out there to make sure she makes it to the finish line? Absolutely. And then what happened? COVID came in. She increases from 11 universities to goodness knows how many. She starts killing it. She's building huge contracts. She goes to Tech Coast Angels, our great friends over there, and that's going unbelievably well. I don't know how confidential it is or how it's not, but I will just say it's going incredible. To Pasadena Angels, going incredible. Going to Band of Angels is going incredible. And the objective, from my perspective, is to have the 3 greatest angel groups anywhere in California all combined with one goal, and that is that Vertanza make it to Series A. Like, how huge is that? You got
Yeah,
like
actually,
1,000
I
people on your
I
back.
just I just saw the company on Thursday, so I wasn't aware of it until Thursday. So they pitched to Orange County TCA on Thursday. So Debbie did. So,
Yeah.
um, well, that's really
Am
great.
I wrong?
No, no, I mean, hey, look, okay. So again, her target is not Harvard. Her target is the other universities, and she's doing great there.
Yeah.
That's the key here, is she knew exactly what universities to go after. Um, so, all right, let's see if I have any questions. No questions. So let me ask you about IP as an accelerator, as a funder to early stage companies. How does IP fall in the equation? How does it? Do you consider it? How high is it on the consideration scale?
Ah, man, this is such a hard question because I know what the answer should be, but it's just not. Like, it should be IP is all and everything, but in truth, we know it's execution. We just know it's execution. Like, we had a company that we took, I think it was one of the very first companies that we took in. And it was a video platform, and we have an amazing company that we just took in, a video platform, that are in final diligence with one of the VCs down here. But this was one of the companies we took in right at the start. Really nice guy, really nice platform, badly built code. The IP is there. Is it worth anything? No. And I've seen like how many scooter companies have gone bust, that have got either one dongle or another, which is phenomenal IP. Is it worth anything? No. Like, the IP becomes worth something. First of all, it's good to protect yourself, right? As a startup, even in the knowledge that you do not have the funds to be able to protect yourself if somebody wants to attack you, it is still good to protect yourself. It is not a bad thing to have a patent pending and make sure that you're covered on your IP. The actual IP itself is so determined until you get to Series A and Series B, where you actually have a proper product, a proper system, a proper sales mechanism, a proper overview. I mean, everything that actually means that without you being there, the company will run pretty successfully. Until you get to that stage, it's not of huge value to investors. I do, if it's cybersecurity, of which we have 3 companies in our current cohort, that secret sauce to me is extremely important. I will say though, even there, where the IP is incredibly proprietary and we value it kind of above everything, I still know that if that particular founder were to have an accident that would stop them or impair them from being able to carry out their duties, I know that I can't do anything with that software or with what they have, and I know they probably can't either. So the value becomes very strong. Once you get to A and B, then that IP becomes everything. Prior to them, you just got to pray hard.
Well, you know what? I have to agree with you on that. Many people that I know do not agree with that. I think what I see a lot of time is that entrepreneurs are spending 10, 20, 30, $40,000 sometimes to create some, patent protection or whatever, instead of actually spending that money on execution, on trying to get customers to prove that there is a market. So should you have IP? Yes, but I think it's more important to really find out if the dog will eat the dog food or not, and
Yeah.
and instead of spending all this money on trying to put a patent in place. Again, it's
I
a
agree.
very difficult subject to talk about, especially when it comes to angel investors, as well, specifically.
I will
Uh,
actually, let's stick on this for a couple of seconds, because it
yeah,
is because IP can suddenly, sometimes the forest can stop us from being able to see the individual trees. So let's look at what a founder needs to be able to do at the beginning. So
Yeah.
you find a problem. Let's say it's cybersecurity, so we got a good IP conversation, and then let's
Yep.
say you say, hey, folks are breaking in through this door here, this thermostat that they're able to get through, and I've created this little device, and this little device then actually just sits in here, and that device, maybe it's a hardware, maybe it's not a hardware, but that
Right.
device then stops them from being able to break into that. And to your point, what I don't want to do, I don't want to share that with too many people that can potentially take that and replicate it in an early stage, especially if they have access. Now, that could either be a customer who's maybe promising to invest. It could be an investor who you definitely can't trust with any of your deep IP information. Nobody, not me, not anybody else. You can just be unlucky. Life is full of Murphy's Law. So you don't even want to open that door. You don't want to even open it to customers. Like, you want to keep what's proprietary to you as incredibly close as you possibly can. Now, I'm now going to speak on the other side, which is that if I had a dime for every single startup who said to me, my product is in stealth, I can't bring it out until we've managed to get X, Y, and Z through, like, I feel like shooting myself in the head by the time they're finished, because I know what's going to happen. I know that one word that JJ just said there, which is all important, which is execution, is being ignored. I know that you're so focused. Firstly, I know the personality type you are. You're a creative, and that's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing for execution. You need someone who's an executor. You need someone who's a biz dev. You need someone who wakes up in the morning and they think, right, how many new customers have we got? Right, how many people have actually got the license working? Right, how many people are paying? Right, how sticky is it? Right, how many people are staying? Right, how many people are leaving? Right, why are they leaving? The creative person is going to be more worried about the fact of, is the product absolutely perfect to get it out to the market, even if it's an MVP? And if it's, by the way, if it's not the creative and it's not the business dev person, then it's the logistics person. And the logistics person is too worried about, does the shape actually look absolutely perfect, that it fits into the right dongle in the right place and the right thing? You got to execute. You got to get it out there. And I promise you something. Number one, your customers will forgive literally anything you do in your first 6 months of business. Anything. You know why? It's not because they're forgiving, and it's not because you've got a great brand. It's because they don't care about you. It's because you are so insignificant in your first 6 to 12 months that nobody will even remember your name. But you gotta execute. You gotta get it out there. And then if you execute and if you push it out, then at least you have the opportunity to be able to get feedback. And feedback from customers is then going to allow you to improve it and to get it better. So please, please, please do not pontificate. Do not hold your product back. Do not put it into stealth for years and years and years. And at the same time, please don't be too giving and too kind and too generous and too decent with sharing that information with other people. Focus your time on executing. If somebody wants too much information about the proprietary information on your product, wrong person for you. Go away, move on to the next person.
It's really great, because that's what's really happening. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. That's
it's
really
good,
what's
though,
happening.
because there's only 3 weeks left.
Yeah, so I could still put it up. Only 3 weeks left for the for the business plan competition. So join.
Yes.
Um,
And by the way,
so,
everybody should. I haven't given you a shout out in this so far, which is negligent of me, because what generally happens during times like this, everybody gets so busy, including us, that we don't have time to do the fundamentals, which is to support the early stage startup space. And we used to do events here every 15 minutes for startups, like literally 5 times a
yeah,
week. There would be another event in the dojo. There'd be people playing and hanging out and drinking beer and getting to know each other. More teams have met in this place than I can swing a cat at. And this was being replicated all around LA and all around California, but it's
very
not
true.
now. It's not now. So the startups are not getting that really important interaction with investors that they were getting before. So I know what you go through to actually put this together. I know it so well that I would not do it in a month of Sundays. That's how hard I know that this is, right? And the fact that you've gone, and I've seen everything you've done in the background, and through the goodness of your heart to make sure that startups are taken care of, and without any thought for yourself, you've brought all of these investors together, literally hundreds of investors, in the only real event that's happening this year. And then you're bringing these talks out and you're bringing it all to the community, and everybody's getting it at no charge. It's a big big, big deal. So I thank you from the folks like us that just have been too shitty to be able to get to it, and from the startups who are actually receiving all of this. Yeah, they should be eternally grateful, because this is a really big deal.
We're trying really, really hard. I know you know how difficult that is. So it's been a lot of work. We have 4 people working on this for the past few months. It's coming to start. So the applications will end in 3 weeks, but then the fun begins. So all right. So, and the fun is ending after an hour being here. So I just want to do a little bit of closing. I'll come back to you very quickly. And what all I'm asking from you, maybe a tip or two to give to the entrepreneurs today to help them be successful. I know we talked about a lot of things, but if there was one, maybe 2 things that would be on the top of your list, what would those be? And let me come right back after I do closing. So thanks everyone for being here today. I just wanted to let you know that we have great programs for the rest of September. Because of the competition, we might go dark in October, but I'm not sure yet. It depends on a lot of things. So we will keep you posted. But next week, we have Quan Wen. Quan is a TCA member and also an IP attorney. So he will be on talking about IP, which we just talked about. If you have not followed us on social media and subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so right now. The other thing I would say is 3 weeks left for the competition. VenturePlanCompetition.com is the website. Please go and sign up. It's a great event, a lot of feedback, a lot of investors, invaluable for any of the entrepreneurs that are here today or that have been part of this, Southern California ecosystem. Brian, what is it? What is that 1 or 2 tips?
And by the way, so first tip is apply for the accelerator. We're going to invest in at least another 12 companies this year between now and the end of the year, and we're going to invest in a bunch next year. We're not slowing down. You can get it on the Expert Dojo website. If you're a company that believes that you can scale very quickly, then you know where we are and you know how to find us at expertdojo.com. And then look, everything else is just be in beast mode. Like literally, if you woke up at 5 o'clock yesterday morning and you managed to get in contact with 20 potential new customers, and you managed to reply to 50 emails, and you managed to get 4 proposals out, then wake up at 4:30 tomorrow morning and get 30 folks that you're going to connect with, and get 40 of the other, and get 50 of the other, and build and build and build and build. Don't sleep. Don't stop. Don't do anything. Don't have fun. Don't go out with your friends. You got one thing to do. You can scale faster in the next year to year and a half than you could have done in the previous 8 years. This is your time. Don't you understand? Like the cards are stacked against you in venture versus Series B and Series C and Series D companies. Think about Zoom. Nobody can beat Zoom because the cards are already stacked against everybody else. However, in this time of COVID, the beasts will win. But you have to get into that beast mode. Everybody's got to see it. The investors have to see it. Your team have to see it. Your customers have to see it. Everybody. Build something brilliant. Don't stop. Don't relent. And make sure that you take it all the way in a third of the time than you would have before. That's it.
Yep. I'm just going to answer Cynthia's question. Cynthia, she's saying, is the competition interested in anything else than SaaS? Well, if you looked at the competition, if you go to the website ventureplancompetition.com, you will see we have 10 different categories. One of them is SaaS, but we have consumer product, we have AI, we have social enterprise even. So there's a lot of categories. I know you, Cynthia, and I know what you're doing, so you'll fit right in. SaaS is only one. Brian, thank you again so very much. I look forward to seeing you soon. Well, as soon as this COVID times is over, we will see you. I really appreciate your time today and your insight. It was absolutely wonderful.
My pleasure, buddy. It's always great to support you and everything you're doing over there.
Thank you. Same here. We'll look to support you as well. I appreciate everything you do for the ecosystem here that we have. Thank you.
And that's a wrap, right?
That's a wrap. Bye-bye, everyone.